Hi, this is Mike from Swimex, and today we're going to go over changing your paddle wheel bearing and seal assembly on the basis that your original paddle wheel bearing and seal is leaking. Okay, we're now ready to go ahead and install the new bearing and seal assembly, so we'll go over the parts needed to go ahead and get this done. We have our brand new bearing, we have our Delrin that we're reusing, and we've got the new O-ring in place, as well as the new seal, and that's one half of the seal. We have the second half of our seal and our spring and cup washer that we're reusing. We also have our 4 nuts to hold everything together, 3/4 inch socket for the bolts, and for the Allen set screws on the bearing we have a 3/16 Allen wrench and some silicone to hold the O-ring in, as well as some rubber lubricant and anti-seize paste for the bearing. Our very first step here is we're going to go ahead and get the seal and the spring assembly and cup washer ready to be installed. That's how they would go in. Notice how the cup washer is going to go in first, and that seal is going to be facing out. It's very important that that shiny carbon face in the seal really remains clean and no debris gets on there, because that's your sealing surface. We'll go ahead now and use some rubber lubricant to go ahead and help slide that seal assembly on. And you just want to gently, evenly spread the rubber lubricant on the inside of that rubber seal. And put some on the shaft as well. This will just aid in getting the seal to slide onto the shaft properly without much trouble. And now get it on and push it smooth and evenly right across the shaft. And you're going to go until that cup washer presses up against the steel collar inside. And now you're going to have to lift the shaft to go ahead and get it to go all the way in. Okay, now we'll go ahead and get the Delrin block, seal, and O-ring set up. We got the Delrin block. We'll be reusing that from the original removal. We'll go ahead and take the second half of the seal, and notice how you have a steel face. That's going to face out once you press that into the Delrin block. Just like that. We'll go ahead and use some more of the rubber lubricant just to help get it on there nice and snug and flush. And just spread that generously. Now we're ready to install it into the bearing block. And just a light coat on the inside as well. Go ahead and press that in. Want to make sure to get it nice and square into the Delrin block. Okay, once you got the seal generally installed, we'll go ahead and put that down and use a board to get it flush. And that just makes sure that half of the seal is in the Delrin block nice and square. Now that we got the seal in place, you'll see that it's nice and flush all the way around the Delrin block. We'll now get ready to put the O-ring in place. The O-ring will fit right in the groove, and generally to help it keep in place we'll use Molykote grease. It's a silicone based grease that'll just help keep it in that O-ring groove as you're sliding that back into place. Put a couple dabs of the Molykote on the groove. And this will just aid in keeping the O-ring in place as you're sliding it up against the on the shaft. And there we go, we got the O-ring being pressed in. Get that nice in. Clean up any excessive grease. Okay, and now we're ready to slide that onto the shaft. Lift the the shaft up, and you want to line the 4 holes in the Delrin block with the 4 bolts that are part of the pool wall assembly. Lastly, now you want to take your bearing, your brand new bearing, and coat the inside of the bore of that bearing with some Never-Seez, and that'll just help in aiding sliding it on the shaft. And typically you'd want to go ahead and orientate it such that the grease fitting would be pointing in the 12 o'clock position. You just want to align it such that it goes on straight and flush, and that grease will help get it on the shaft. There you go. Align the 4 holes in the bearing with the 4 bolts again, and tap it into place. And now take your 4 nuts and go ahead and get those. Those are nylock nuts. You want to get those installed. And now we're going to go ahead and take a 3/4 inch socket and tighten those in a specific pattern. Go ahead and get them started. Go over them again and start retightening. What we're trying to do is compress the O-ring on the back side evenly. That's why we're jumping back and forth on all 4 nuts, trying to get even compression on the O-ring. Okay, now we'll go ahead and continue tightening the hex nuts. That'll force the bearing block the bearing to go ahead and press up against the white Delrin. And what we're going to do is go ahead and compress that till you have about 1/8 of an inch between the pool wall and the white Delrin ring. We're actually using a tongue depressor to just check our spacing to make sure we only have about 1/8 of an inch all the way around the circumference and it's even. You don't want to fully tighten that bearing all the way down and really crush that O-ring. You want to compress it, leave an even 1/8 inch spacing between the white Delrin block and the pool wall. We'll go ahead and just double check. And now we've got the tongue depressor going in. We've got a clear 1/8 inch gap around the whole circumference of the Delrin where it meets the pool wall. We're ready for our next step. Is to go ahead and take your 3/16 Allen wrench, and you want to go ahead and tighten down the 2 Allen set screws on the bearing itself. There should be 2 of those guys. Just want to tighten those by hand and get them snug. Okay, this now completes the process. If you're changing the bearing and seal on the non-motor side, your job is complete. If you're working on the motor side, which is what we have pictured here, you now go ahead and take your shaft key, put that back on the shaft. You then throw some Never-Seez on it and throw your gear motor back on, and you're ready to go. This completes changing your bearing and seal assembly on a SwimX pool.